The new atheists claim that God is a delusion and that religious faith is harmful. But the arguments they use don't stand up to careful examination. For example, someone wrote recently, "Evidence, by definition, can't support faith. If you need evidence to support your religious beliefs, it isn't faith." Michael Poole is Visiting Research Fellow in Science and Religion at King's College London. He researches and writes about the relationship between science and religion. We asked him how he responds to the claim that evidence can't support faith.
Well, it just illustrates the misunderstanding there is about the nature of faith, and it becomes wearisome at times to hear again and again the same repetition of equating faith with credulity. Now, what they are talking about is credulity, where you believe something without any evidence for it, or even in the face of contrary evidence. The idea of faith is trust, maybe a synonym for it, and it's based upon evidence. Nobody but an idiot would go into something like crossing a rope bridge or something like that if they didn't have faith, believe that the rope was strong enough to hold them, that the supports were secure, and things like that. Because in everyday life we are always exercising faith and trust in something where certainty is not available.
So we all use faith in everyday life. But can there really be evidence in support of religious faith, in support of God?
So one does need to realise that faith is something that is grounded upon evidence. At least that's certainly the claim I would make for the Christian faith. And it's rather like looking at a court of law where you have lots of individual items of evidence, none of which may be fully persuasive in their own right, but all of which have some value. If it has no value at all, then you end up in Professor Anthony Fleur's 10 leaky buckets tactic, where you think that 10 arguments, none of which hold water, lead to one which does, and of course that's nonsense. So you can have an accumulation of small pieces of evidence and build up a cumulative case for belief in God from historical matters, from religious experience, from the fact there is a world at all, from the kind of world it is. There are all sorts of pointers that can build up a persuasive case for the believer that these things are true.
In the first of these programmes, Michael Poole said that God is beyond science. But now he's saying that there is scientific and historical evidence that points towards a creator. We asked him, is this a contradiction?
No. You can't prove God scientifically, because I said God is a spirit and not a material thing. But there will be all sorts of things in the world that one can see in the world of science, for instance, that may be part of this cumulative case. One point would be that the universe shows orderliness. And it also appears to be intelligible to us. And this was something that Einstein found most amazing. He said, the most incomprehensible thing about the world is that it is comprehensible. So, and there's also things like human rationality. Why do our reasoning processes work the way they do? Then there's evidence from historical side. There are many historical claims that are made in the Bible, and these can be investigated. There are archaeological discoveries which point to some of the things that we read about in the Bible, and so on. But there is, within the scientific enterprise itself, an order that seems to be there, that we can understand, and that has been, and I think for a moment of Darwin here, that he thought that the fact that there were laws pointed to a lawgiver. So this was his concept of God as a lawgiver.
So for Michael Poole, faith isn't a special religious characteristic. We all use faith in our daily lives, and we decide how much faith to put in something depending on the amount of evidence. When it comes to the Christian faith, there's a cumulative case, with evidence from science, from history, and from personal experience. So the suggestion that evidence can't support faith is another broken argument. If you want to find out more about this and other bad arguments used by the New Atheists, we recommend Michael Poole's book, The New Atheism: 10 Arguments That Don't Hold Water.